How I became diabetic. I was 15 years old, so I've had diabetes for 40 years. It was 1975. I was on a backpacking trip where our food was pretty regimented because we carried it all on our backs. So the experience of eating, this is right at the end of the trip, was so strange because I ate the food and it didn't help anything. So that was a strange experience, and I felt kind of sick. Uh, Maybe the flu, I wasn't sure. But I came home and had the variety of eating, so I didn't notice the food not satisfying anymore because I could just eat more, and drank a lot, so I could eat and drink all I wanted, and um, I seemed to get weaker and weaker. Uh, I got kicked off the swim team because I wasn't improving, um, and I just wasted away. I had lost maybe maybe a few pounds. Everybody had on the backpacking trip, but I kept losing weight. And then towards the end, people were really shocked at how skinny I was. And it got to the point where I really couldn't even get out of bed. I was so tired. I was so thirsty. I was just so thirsty that it was impossible to quench the thirst. Um, I was taken to the hospital. I wasn't in a coma yet, but they said I was probably close to into a coma. Um, and they gave me insulin. I remember that feeling terrific right away, and um, like not feeling quite so thirsty, but they were also hydrating me with fluids intravenously. And I seem to remember like I feel better. I'd like to just say it's all good because this really feels better. But I had to stay in the hospital, and they taught me how to eat exactly the same amount every day, that I would have to do it at the same time every day because of the timing of the release of insulin. Taught me how to give a shot. No big deal there. Give it to the orange. And my mom had a hard time. She, a couple weeks later, told me that I was on my own with diabetes. She would not be able to deal with it. It was too much for her. Um, and uh, they taught me how to eat the same amount every day, and there was a system called carb counting. I started right off counting grams of carbohydrate. I bought a book that divided up the foods into like well, it was like a government document, and every food it would say, okay, 100 grams of this food has so many carbs, so many of this, that, and the other thing. All the foods listed possible there. And so I started right off gram counting. Um, and the whole idea there was to eat the same thing every day at the same time and do regular exercise. And so I pretty much lived a normal life. I think I had trouble with low blood sugars. There was no way to test our blood. We had like some tape we could pull off. Of course, I used the ones you've heard described, the test tube with the pill that fizzled. Now that was the accurate one. There was also test tape that had come out that you could pee on, and it would change colors 30 seconds or so. Um, but there was no correcting your blood sugar. It was simply um, if you're spilling sugar and you're doing exactly the same thing, then the next day you would try a little more insulin and just continue doing the exact same thing every day. Um, and that I could not do. So I can't say I really had any kind of diabetes control. Um, I spilled a lot of sugar. I heard somebody else mention this about how while spilling a lot of sugar, the toilet got a bunch of black mold on it. I haven't heard females mention that, so I think maybe it's because guys kind of pee on the side of the toilet more. Um, I don't know, but that was a period of my life, and I didn't grow. I hadn't grow any taller. I was 5'10" at age just turned 15, and I didn't grow anymore. Um, I believe my health was very bad. I believe I had some emotional issues because I had low blood sugar and didn't know they were low blood sugar. Um, and I started hiding my diabetes. Didn't tell anybody about it. So for years, I didn't know anybody who knew that I had diabetes. Remember one time forgetting that I was running out of syringes, and I had gotten a pretty good doctor. He was helping me. Um, uh, and I think that's when I went on to multiple daily injections. Um, it was early on in high school. I was doing one shot in the morning that lasted maybe a year of regular and NPH. But they brought me back, and it was like, okay, your honeymoon's over, so now you can do it. I don't know. I can't really remember. I seem to remember once a day for a long time, but mostly regular and NPH. But then I did start taking another NPH in the evening. So I guess it became at some point twice a day. And I guess I stayed with that for a long time. And when I got this new doctor at age 21, 20 or 21, 20, no, I started seeing him at age 19. And when the first glucose meter came out, he imported that from England for me because the FDA hadn't approved it. And it was, I don't know, guess it was kind of interesting to see what my blood sugar was, but it wasn't like I could control it. Um, for some reason, I tested a little while, and I don't know how long it lasted, but I stopped. I just completely stopped testing. I had a long commute by bus, and so one day I got like a whole bunch of Kleenex in a plastic bag so I could test on the bus. And I tested on the bus, but the way you really needed to be at a sink, and you needed a like this squeezer bottle of water so you could uh, clean off the reagent strip and then clip it into the thing that would give you a number. I've heard people talk about they could compare it as a like on a scale of colors, but my doctor had me start right off with this one that you could clip down and it would give you a number, but it was actually just reading the color, but it would give a number. But somehow, it took 2 minutes, and you had to have a stop, uh, watch with the second hand, time it really carefully. And I think the main thing is I was hiding the diabetes, and I guess the tradition had been there's nothing you can do for the diabetes except follow the same schedule every day. So when I would test the blood, I mean, I couldn't. They would call it you can't chase a low, like, or you can't chase a high. So you'd have a high blood sugar. Well, there's nothing you can do for it that day, but tomorrow, when you're doing the exact same thing you did today, you can have had take it more insulin or, but uh, it was too complicated to change the insulin dosage. So um, I think this doctor in my early 20s, he did have me do like a sliding scale, maybe I forget, but it was so I went I think from my early 20s to my late 30s, um, not testing at all, not testing my blood, not testing my urine, just pretty much going by how I felt. And I thought I could pretty much do that because I had been able to predict when I was doing the blood tests. I'd be like, yeah, I think it's probably 160. And I test, and yeah, it would be 160. So I felt pretty confident about that. Um, but I got now when I first had my first diagnosis, I got a cyst on the bottom of my foot, big round hole. It was too painful to walk on. Um, and then in my late 30s, I got another, just a little tiny cyst on my lower leg, and that was a wake up call. So I started going online, and I found out about insulin pumps. There was a site called Kids Are Pumping, really inspiring. And after a while, I decided I was going to do that, and I did. I started seeing a doctor. He put me on what he called the poor man's pump, where I was taking. At that point, they had a insulin analog. So I started the insulin analog at that point and the long acting. And I was really happy with that. Um, and I recorded my blood sugar levels for a month. And we went ahead and got on the pump. But I kind of felt like, I like this poor man's pump. But anyway, I didn't didn't go on a poor man's pump for a long time. I went to the insulin pump, and I really felt like that just freed me up so much to actually have this basal rate that I could actually not eat. I could actually skip a meal. So it was just, it was so freeing. Um, and then the speed with which the insulin worked was a phenomenon to me. I was able to eat carbohydrates because I had pretty much avoided any carbohydrates. Like I had never had pancakes. I never ate breakfast cereal. Um, and I remember a boy my same age having gotten type 1 diabetes at the same time as me, and being so surprised that he ate a lot of carbohydrates for his lunch. And I was like, I had no idea you could eat that many carbohydrates with diabetes. So I think I might have got a pretty good start with somehow being on a low carb diet. Um, so I think the start was good, but then we switched to uh, an HMO plan, which is popular to this day and works really good for a lot of diagnoses. But I don't think there's much help for diabetics in that medical system, um, due to the fact that they're not really looking for cutting edge techniques. They're not trying the new things. Um, okay, so the pump helped, and then I thought, you know, when I was young, I tried to do construction type work that required some physical strength, and I wasn't able to control my blood sugar well enough. So it proved to be impossible. Uh, and so I worked as an engineer, sitting down all the time. Then I decided, when engineering took kind of a cutback, I decided to go into construction. I thought I could handle physical work. And in fact, I could not. I didn't have a CGM until about 4 years of working in construction. I got the first generation of CGM, and it wasn't what I hoped it would be. But it did help a little bit, and I felt a little more confident. But at some point after a couple of years, I lost it right after getting a new one. So I had to wait for the next one, and I wasn't using it that that consistently. Um, remember at one point I was testing my blood a lot. The CGM wasn't helping that much. But now I got the Dexcom, and that has helped a lot. I feel like I'm able to handle the physical work at this point. It's, I think it's more an issue now of becoming old. I'm actually at the traditional retirement age, at 55 for a construction worker. Um, but I've been able to take jobs where the exercise requirements are regular. And I'm speaking in terms of diabetics do regular exercise, which was never really explained to me. But what that means is you do the same exercise at the same time without deviation every day. And, and it's not like you're pushing your body or doing anything physiologically good for it, except it's good for the diabetes to get the same amount of exercise every day. Um, so that's that's what I've been doing at work now for about a year, and so that's helping a lot. So I think that pretty much sums up where I'm at now. And so thanks for listening, and thanks for being able to relate to something like this. I was just watching this video about these people that use these suits to fly, and the one gal was saying that it's a small community, and these are the only people that understand what I live for, kind of thing. And I think it's really the same with diabetics. We we're able to find each other online, um, and it's just so special for me to be able to talk about my diabetes and hear other people talk about their diabetes. So don't forget to give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and subscribe for more future content.